Hello, I'm ABX and welcome back to the video. Today I want to talk about the Phantom in Minecraft. So this is the mob we all voted on at Minecon, and it's one of the mobs that Jeb feels the most pressure to really develop and make the best it can be, because it really has to live up to the sales pitch that made people vote on it. So one of the interesting things that he's added to the game to allow this to happen is a brand new size command. So as well as spawning phantoms via the spawn egg, like you can see like this, you can also spawn them using the /summon phantom command, and if you use the size tag, you can make either a regular size phantom, being like something like that, or you can make a giant phantom if you want to, and the fact that you can change the size like that has only been seen with two other mobs in the game before, which are basically the same mob, so it kind of hints that there's going to be a lot of behaviors, and I want to talk about what those behaviors might be, as well as just how large you can make them before it starts to ruin your game in today's video. So yeah, that's right, we're going to be covering giant phantoms, as well as like phantom spawn limits, all those sorts of things that you might be curious in, and hopefully you do all enjoy it. Please do like the video if you do like it, because it helps out the channel a lot, and let's know you do like this sort of video. Again, it's going to be covering giant phantoms, because let me just warn you, this is the start of where phantoms get big. It's going to get bigger and bigger and bigger until we reference why that might be a thing. So yeah, let's start by talking about, I guess, the fact that the size command is a MBT tag. So if you're curious as to why you have to type it in like this and why it's so very, very odd, it's because you're changing the MBT size, and only 3 mobs in the game have this as an effect. If you're curious what those 3 mobs are, it is the Phantom, which has just been added and, you know, might change in snapshots, but the historic ones we've had is the Slime. So Slime goes from 1 to 3, with 0 being a small slime, 1 being a medium slime, and 3 being a large slime. So there is a large slime, as you can see, and we can do the same with magma creams if we want to, or magma cubes, I should say, if we want to. We can say magma_cube, and we can set the size of that as well. So we can set it to be size 3, or we can set it to be size 5, which is somewhere between, you know, a regular size slime, or a big slime, and a big one than that. And then if we really want, we can go bigger and bigger and bigger, because the idea is these mobs have behavior that just increases and scales as they get larger. So as you all know, this is the largest size of slime you can get in the game, and when you split it, you kill it, it divides into 2 smaller slimes. Well, if you kill this magma cube, which is again same behavior, just a magma mob, then what you'll get is you'll get 2 regular sized ones, and basically you can just add another step to the chain. They have more health, they have more everything. The whole mob changes when you decide the size, because all of their other attributes are kind of based on the size, which is why it's so interesting that the Phantom has this same behavior. Because right now, although you can check, I want to kill this magma cube because he's just too big. Let's just get rid of him. So as you can see, you kill him and he splits into 2 pretty average, slightly bigger than average size cubes, and then when you kill those, it keeps splitting until you get the mini cubes, which I'm sure you're all familiar with. So the reason that I bring that up is because, again, the behavior, the health, the size, the speed, the jump it can even do is all based on the size of the cube, and the size of the cube is a real thing that is affected in everyday gameplay. However, right now at least, the Phantom will only spawn in this variant, which for some reason is just tunneling towards this piece of grass. I guess he got trapped. The Phantom only spawns in this variant right now, in size 1. However, the fact that there is a lot more sizes available kind of says some interesting stuff, and I figured, again, we're going to address how big it can get and what that size might be used for. But first, you know, I kind of want to see how big it can get first, because again, I've showed this off very briefly before, but let's get a real feel for how big Phantoms can get before they start to be, you know, game breaking. So again, size 10 Phantom was pretty huge, but this is a size 20 Phantom. As you can see, this is much bigger than the player, this is much bigger than pretty much any mob in the game, but it still functions just fine. You're seeing how, like, the mob itself is having some weird issues there, but there's no issues with the game. Like, the frame rate is working just fine. You'll see that change eventually, but as you can see, it's a huge Phantom. It's a fairly easy one to kill because its health isn't changed yet, but you know, it's huge and it's super, super intimidating. So if we then move up a size from that and we go to size 30, for instance, as you can see, it gets even bigger. Now we're definitely at, like, you know, same size as the Ender Dragon, you know, like a boss mob in the game. Still the same easiness to kill though, and just, you know, more intimidating in terms of stuff. But you can go like quite a few sizes up before you get clearly beyond any other mob that has ever existed in the game. And I think this is a fair example of that, because when you get to size 50, that's when you start to reach the point where, like, more than a few of these will crash your game. You know, fighting them is going to be tricky, and, like, you know, the way you hit their box is kind of glitching out. So this is the largest size I think you could ever even realistically see them in the game, and it's still pretty darn big though, right? And in case you're curious, that's just how big it gets before it breaks the game, because again, I want to know that too. It seems to be somewhere between 100 and 200. Again, a size 100 Phantom, it works just fine, at least on my PC, although the mob itself has some issues. But then once you get any bigger than that, things just start to go a little bit haywire. So here is 120 size Phantom, which, as you can see, this would never be found in the real game itself. It would just be ridiculous. But again, you might see like some modded server or some modded game mode if you use this command block to do that. But then also, like I said, it just gets more and more ridiculous as you go up the levels, until about 150 is where things just start to randomly break. Although it hasn't started that right now, but in my experience, that's what happens. So as you can see, here's a bunch of size Phantoms together. Oh, there we go. You can see frame rate's starting to dip just a little bit, and this is where, you know, this is like, I've got a extreme edition CPU. Like, it's not, we're talking like the sort of things where, like, this will break a lot of people's computers, so we're never going to see size 150 Phantoms. Although, given that it hasn't broken things yet, let's just go to size 200. Let's just show you how that looks, because isn't it beautiful? isn't this the most amazing thing? And yeah, you can go up as large as your computer can handle, in theory, so, you know, size 300, it will work, and eventually, okay, this is where, you know, this is just lagging again. This thing is almighty. This would be so amazing if this ever made it to the game. Just because look at that thing. That covers an entire biome, basically, and, like, again, if you see one of those, you're going to be scared forever. But again, it despawns because it's just too big, and it gets out of the way. So, anyway, let's talk about exactly how these things might be used, because like I said, unlike the slime and the magma cube, where the size is integral to behavior, right now the size is not integral to these guys' behavior. So, also, by the way, I want to know, like, if you can get to size 300 before it just immediately goes away, if we use this command block right here, which we're going to turn off very briefly, and put on to be infinite phantoms, how many phantoms can we spawn before we get a similar effect of lag? And I'd say we reached it about now, so, you know, we can get about 100, maybe 200 phantoms, before we have the same level of, like, you know, mob lag where they just don't know what to do and they're freezing the game every now and then, which is interesting that you can have, like, a size 200 phantom, or you can have roughly, you know, I'd say that's about 100, maybe 200 phantoms before you get the exact same effect. So having more size means you can have less of them. So again, you're going to find the balance somewhere in there, and maybe size 20 or 30, one of the early ones I showed off. So anyway, why do I say of this stuff? You might be like, okay, that's some cool stuff you're showing off Toycat, and I like the comparison of, like, how you, again, the one-to-one thing there, but let's talk a little bit about why this size is useful and why it's worth knowing about, because I really do believe the size command will come into the game at some point, and again, whereas the magma cube and the slime have used it to determine their health, etc., I think what will happen with the or, you know, they spawn at a certain size, but then they split into smaller ones. I think the, you know, this mob right here will perhaps grow over time. So for instance, when you, again, this is the regular size, I think this is the size you'll get when you're just, you know, a little bit oversleep. So you haven't slept for an hour in real life time, or, like, you know, 3 game days or something. So these mobs will start to spawn, and they'll start to follow you every now and then. They're annoying, but they're easily taken out. We've shown before how, like, if one tries to attack you, all you have to do is you just go after it, and then easy as that. So given that we know that they're easy enough to kill by themselves, this can be like our base one. This can be like the level 1 slime, except a little bit trickier. You know, it's still a challenge, but then as you know, things go on, and as you know, keep on having insomnia, the insomnia effect will get worse and worse and worse, leading to larger ones to spawn. So instead of having a group of these spawn, which will eventually happen, you'd have, like, a size, you know, slightly bigger one spawn, and then you could have, like, oh, but then you know, you keep on not sleeping, so a slightly bigger one forms, and you can see how the size effect is, like, fairly small to notice at first. Like, this one isn't too much huge than the other ones, but you could see how, like, using this size effect to do these tiny minute differences could lead to having a mob which gets bigger and bigger, and perhaps has more attack, and perhaps even has more health, just to kind of justify. And I think, honestly, the fear, you know, it's kind of like a physical representation of how you need to sleep. You know, in the real world, you know, the idea of, like, you know, being sleepy overpowers you eventually. Eventually, the insomnia effect will overpower you, because more and more of these will spawn in larger sizes, and the larger sizes, even if they're not necessarily too much harder to kill, at least right now, they're still way more intimidating, and it's going to be something that encourages you to sleep, which is something that you should obviously do, again, both real life and Minecraft. So that is what I think will happen with the Phantom. I think it's really cool that they have a size command. I think it's really interesting they have a size command, and I think that it will come into the game at some point, given that it's only, you know, they want to put the size command on one other mob. Do you know how many other mobs we have in the game? It's like, I actually don't know, because they added 4 recently, and the number before that was kind of confusing, but this is how many this is how many mobs we have in the game. As you can see, that is like 53 different spawn eggs we have in the game. Only 3 of those right now. Again, that's like, what, like 3%? Oh, sorry, 6%, because just over, roughly 6% of the mobs in Minecraft have this command. It's not many of them. It was literally just, you know, one other mob, because it was basically the same one, and then this one, and that's why I think that the real insomnia effect in the game will use it at some point. But that's my opinion. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and let me know what you thought of this fun little, you know, actually, just for fun, let's just turn it off, and let's just see how low things will go, because I feel like that's kind of fun. So, I hope you enjoyed this video. Like it if you did like it, because it helps out the channel a lot. Let us know you do like these sorts of videos, share if you really liked it, and subscribe if you're new around here, because I make videos like this one every single day on my channel, and if subscribed, you'll see them daily on your homepage, with an infinite number of phantoms. So, yeah, again, leave a comment down below. Let me know what you think the size of, if the size thing will be used, or if you think that, nah, like, having these phantoms, like, numbers of the phantoms are way more intimidating than the actual size of them. And this has lasted a surprising long time before my game just crashed. So, as you can see, Java Edition, at least my PC, can handle so many phantoms. Maybe they're just turned into a swarm at this point. So, thank you very much for watching, and I guess I'll see you all next time. Goodbye.